This video features direct textual citations from a profound investigative report and historical testimony. This is part 1 of an extraordinary memoir that was hidden from the world for nearly 3 decades.
This is an era where ultimate good and ultimate evil coexist, presenting the true value of kindness and malice right before everyone's eyes. Facing crimes never before seen on this planet, should one choose to be a good person and speak out to stop the atrocity? Or remain indifferent and conspire with the devil? This article tells the story of a Chinese man that forces people to reflect, giving everyone the courage to stand up. 29 years ago, fate swept an innocent, vibrant, and cheerful young man into a stormy sea. Since then, this young man, who once enjoyed a privileged life and a promising political career, has been weighed down by his conscience, living anonymously under the dark shadow of guilt. Over the past 29 years, what ups and downs has this young man endured? On one of the coldest days in February 2015, a reporter met the man from those years in an ordinary apartment building that could be found anywhere in Toronto. Interviewing him about a personal experience the reporter had no prior knowledge of. Today, 8 years later, we meet again. He has finally gathered the courage to appear in public, fully exposing the shocking crimes that continue to this day. His name is Zhen. The following are his own autobiographical words. Part 1. Entering the Shenyang Army Hospital. In the early 1990s, in Dongjingling, Wensheng District, Liaoyang City, Liaoning Province, China, there was a 6-story commercial and residential building, with shops on the first floor and residential apartments from the second floor up. It was a bustling neighborhood, and the locally renowned Dongsheng Clinic was located on the first floor of the building. The owner of the clinic was my father, whom everyone called Dr. Zheng. My father was quite well known locally. Before his retirement, he was the director of the Occupational Diseases Department at the 153 Hospital. He was an authoritative figure in the hospital's technical department. His articles were published in specialized journals both at home and abroad, and were also included in China's first medical consultation and prescription desk calendar. All hospital staff looked upon him with respect. My father opened the Dongsheng Clinic before he retired. Our family specialized in traditional Chinese medicine, excelling in respiratory and digestive system diseases, such as colitis and asthma. At that time, the clinic was packed with people. Cars from the city government and the military district were often parked in front of the clinic. Officials from the local government and military district frequently brought their drivers and assistants to the clinic for medical examinations. Our family lived on the second floor above the clinic. My father was a typical Northeast man, warm, generous, hospitable, and highly connected. He had many friends, and guests often dined at our house or at the restaurant across the street. Several high-ranking leaders of the local city government and the Shenyang military region were frequent guests at our home. They shared a close friendship with my father, and the house was always lively back then. I was the only son in the family, deeply loved by my parents and my 2 older sisters. Although I am very introverted now, I used to be vibrant and cheerful, loved singing, and had many friends. I often went out for meals and karaoke with them. At that time, I was studying medicine at the Dalian Army School. On weekends, a military vehicle would often come to pick me up, and all the guards at the gate knew me. Every time I climbed over the wall to go out to eat with my classmates, the guards would just let me back in as soon as they saw me. In our hometown, our family held a certain status. Basically, if my family needed anything done, it took just one phone call. In 1994, I entered the clinical internship phase. I was resting at home at the time, waiting to find an internship unit, and helping out at the clinic when there was nothing else to do. One day, Lao Fu, an officer from the logistics department of the Shenyang military region, came to the clinic. As soon as he saw me, he said, "Oh, Zhen, why are you at home?" My father said to him, "He is looking for an internship unit. Could you help him find one?" Yes, Lao Fu agreed repeatedly. There were several military hospitals in the Shenyang military region, all under the jurisdiction of the military region logistics department. Lao Fu chose the best hospital for me, the Shenyang Army General Hospital. A few days later, he took me straight there, and the room and board procedures were completed on the same day. It turned out he had arranged everything in advance. For anyone else, it would have taken several days to get approval. The Shenyang Army General Hospital, now the General Hospital of the Northern Theater Command, is located in Shenyang City and is the top hospital in the 3 northeastern provinces. Everyone who could work or intern in this hospital had a background. Everyone knew this in their hearts and never questioned each other's backgrounds. I was directly sent by an official from the logistics department of the military region. And I felt a sense of superiority here. Back then, I could choose any department I wanted for my internship. I chose general surgery, cardiovascular surgery, and urology. These were the most popular and lucrative departments in the hospital. In the hospital, not every intern had the opportunity to perform surgery on the operating table, because the teaching doctors had to take risks. But I had many opportunities to get on the operating table in every department. Everyone knew I had a background, and the doctors also hoped to be close to students with connections. China is a society of relationships and privileges, which was very evident at the Shenyang Army General Hospital. Here, as long as you had money, you could accomplish many things. But in the Army Academy, even having money without relationships wouldn't work. The patients in the hospital were either military commanders or government officials. Back then, no matter which department I interned in, officers would often invite me to dinner, give me gifts, and red envelopes. At that time, gifts included mugs, silk scarves, cigarettes, and alcohol. When I was an intern doctor, during rounds, patients would privately hand me a red envelope worth 100 to 200 yuan. Other doctors took more, but I didn't know how much. At that time, my family's financial situation was relatively good, and I usually didn't ask for red envelopes. Back then, there were many fights and brawls in the local area, but people coming out of this hospital looked more decent, and no one dared to bully them. Many people who had been treated at this hospital would leave their contact information, hoping to stay in touch more in the future. Later, I also made some local friends from various professions. If there was anything related to my family, it took just one phone call. This hospital was famous nationwide for organ transplants. I remember when I was interning in cardiac surgery, a wealthy man from Shenzhen flew to the Shenyang Army General Hospital for a heart transplant. However, at that time, the term live organ harvesting was still unknown. This wealthy man waited for a very long time but could not find a suitable organ. There was also a senior officer in the Shenyang military region who needed a kidney transplant. But he had waited for 3 years and still had to undergo hemodialysis to stay alive. At that time, there were many people queuing up in the hospital, and getting an organ transplant was very difficult. Only then did I realize that organs are truly hard to match. Part 2. Participating in live organ harvesting. The secret military mission. Later, I transferred to the urology department for my internship. One day, the hospital suddenly received a phone call from the Shenyang military region, stating that this was a military order requiring medical staff to board the vehicle immediately to execute a secret military mission. It was probably in the afternoon, right after everyone had finished lunch. The department director began calling roll. There were 6 doctors and nurses, 2 females, 1 chief nurse, 1 nurse, and 3 male military doctors. I was also called. The doctors and nurses whose names were not called were asked to leave, and those who were called had to stay. Then, the department director ordered, from this moment on, everyone must cut off all contact with the outside world, including family and friends. No one is allowed to touch any communication devices. The phones were placed on the table. At that time, I really wanted to call my family, but this was a secret military operation. No one was allowed to speak. Afterward, the 6 of us doctors and nurses gathered immediately and boarded a disguised truck. I discovered that the hospital had dispatched 2 identical trucks. We boarded one of them. I didn't know about the other truck. Ahead of us was a military vehicle with its doors open, and inside were soldiers holding guns. At that time, I was very confused, not knowing what I was being deployed to do. The vehicle started immediately, with the military vehicle clearing the way ahead. After leaving the Army General Hospital, the truck got onto the highway. The military vehicles running on the road turned on their police lights and sirens. And all vehicles on the highway pulled over to give way. The truck flew along like the wind. Along the way, everyone wore a serious expression. No one said a word. The vehicle was completely enclosed by light blue cloth curtains. And looking outside along the way was strictly forbidden. Through a gap in the curtains, I saw soldiers holding guns sitting in the front passenger seat. After a while, the vehicle stopped near a building. And everyone got out. I discovered that this place was surrounded by mountains. And soldiers in military uniforms stood guard around the building. An officer came to receive us, stating that this was a military prison very close to Dalian. This is the end of part 1. What happened behind the walls of that military prison? Subscribe to Zhen Shan Ren Arts and turn on notifications so you won't miss part 2. Along with many other untold stories waiting to be uncovered. Living with truth, compassion, and forbearance can lead to extraordinary outcomes. See you in the next video.